Boy, it was chilly early on in Lillehammer this morning, but it's turned out to be a glorious Norwegian day. Blue sky, sunshine. It is chilly, it is crisp, but it's all you expect and it's all you wish for when you come to this country, and particularly this stadium, the Birkebeinen Stadium, higher up than the ski jumping stadium, which earlier today saw the women's 5-kilometer freestyle race, the second part of the Lillehammer treble for the women. Now, before we have a look back at that and before we look forward to the men's 10K, you can see the program for the day. The men's cross country to start at the top of the hour, huge field. Then back to Sweden for the women's sprint, and then after the ski jumping, a pause in activity until we move to North America. The men have gone south from Canada to Beaver Creek for their Super G. The women have gone north from America to Lake Louise for their downhill of the season. So before we concentrate on the men, sit back with myself and Mike Dixon, and we take a look back at how the women's 5K, the second leg of the Lillehammer treble, unfolded today. There's your podium and another Norwegian clean sweep, but it was a fantastic finish. And it was all really about this woman, Therese Johaug, loving the climb, power to weight ratio, everything in her favor. And she came home really fast to eclipse the rest of the field, bar Marit Bjørgen, who at 900 meters gave herself a cushion of 4.3 seconds advantage, knowing that she'd need every bit of that advantage to beat Theresa in the shape and form that she's in. Johaug came home to take the lead away from Charlotte Kalla and to occupy the furry chair and to wait for Marit Bjørgen to come home. 3,300 meters from home, there was nothing between them, but at the line it was 300ths of a second in Therese Johaug's favor. A really fantastic finish between two great Norwegian female
really good shape
athletes.
Now, and it's also good to see that all the training I've done with the sprint has been good. So I'm looking forward tomorrow. I think it will be a hard race, so I will do my best, and then we will see.
Congratulations today and good luck tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
And the result of that success from Therese Johaug means that in the Tour standings, you can see there tomorrow's classic race, which is over 10 kilometers in pursuit. That means catch me if you can. Marit Bjørgen will start with a 20-second advantage over Heidi Weng of Norway, 32 over Therese Johaug of Norway, 46 over Ragnhild Hage of Norway, 46 seconds also ahead of Ingvild Østberg of Norway, and to all of those she'll be saying catch me if you can. It should be some race. Norwegians will start in the first. Well, after yesterday's freestyle sprint, these are the standings in the 3-day Lillehammer Tour prior to the upcoming 10-kilometer freestyle for men, which is now just 5 minutes away from the off, and a huge field of 118 competitors from 25 nations. It's going to take us the best part of an hour to get them started. Those who've achieved the greatest results so far in the early part of the season go last. So Paul Goldberg, yesterday's sprint winner, will be the man who leads off. Alexei Petukov will be just before him, and Finn Kroh before Petukov. And so the likes of Alex Harvey, well, he's about an hour away as we stand at the moment for this competition, and I think we're going to find a number of pathfinders. Well, in any case, sit back with Mike Dixon and myself, David Goldstrom, for what is going to be something of a marathon, even though the distance of the race is on the short side for the men, Mike.
It is. It's unusual. Distance of 10 kilometres, 2 times around the same track the women went round earlier this morning. And I am impressed with the spectators. They came out early to watch the women's race. They've had an almost 2-hour break in between. And more people seem to have packed into the stadium to watch this, which I think, David, is going to be an amazing race. It's going to be so tight, and an opportunity for the non-sprinters from yesterday to pull themselves back into this little mini tour.
Here's the journey twice round the same 5-kilometre loop that the women undertook a little earlier in the morning. And the temperature now dropping again, coming up to 1 o'clock, and the light will begin to fade as well. So it'll get chillier.
It will, and you can see the huge climb. In the women's race, that was a significant part of the race. We saw that with Therese Johaug and Marit Bjørgen. In the men's race as well, second time round, that is where the race will be won and or lost.
Now, clearly, when you've got 118 starters, you cannot have 118 who seriously believe that they're going to win the race. But a lot of these athletes will have set themselves, if not all of them, I should say, will have set themselves a personal target. For most, it will be a time. As you see, Dario Cologna wearing bib number 45. That will be certainly someone we'll be tracking through the race to see what sort of form he's in at this particular moment. More a time than a place, Mike, I think. That's what they'll be looking at.
It will, and I'm happy to see Andrew Young. He's bib number 16 coming in. He's raced very well recently in the gala races up here in Norway. And an opportunity for him, as is the same for Andrew Young. So some good British performances here, I'm expecting. And that is good news for the British team.
Petter Northug wears 100. Not yet in his tip-top form. But before we get underway, worth catching up with Paul Goldberg, who won the freestyle sprint so well yesterday. Very impressive. And he's not just a sprinter. He's got all-round form.
He's a sprint winner and the leader here in the tour in Lillehammer. We're just before the 10-kilometer free technique in the interval start. Excellent start for you yesterday. Looking forward to today?
Yeah, it's going to be a harder race, a tough course here. So try to find a good pace and keep it for 10Ks hopefully.
And you have another World Cup win in the 15-kilometer classic, and we end with the classic technique on Sunday. So this tour maybe favors you well if you can have a good ski tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess all depends on tomorrow. So trying to do a good race, try not to go too hard out in the start, but find a good pace and keep it.
Well, good luck today in the 10-kilometer.
Thanks.
So within 60 seconds of the start for this second leg of the men's triple here at Lillehammer, 10 kilometers freestyle in time trial format. Mike Dixon alongside myself, David Goldstrom. The sun still shining, the temperature dropping, the light will disappear as we get towards the later starters like Paul Goldberg, but this will be a quick race. And it's going to be Jakob Gref of the Czech Republic, the first of 118 competitors from 25 countries to get us underway on what is by the men's standards a really short trip, and 10 kilometers will be over in a blink of an eye, but there'll be a lot of chopping and changing of the order here. One or two racers to keep your eye on. Lucas Bauer, who's yet to find good form, he goes with bib number 4 for the Czech Republic. Giorgio Di Centa, the 2006 50-kilometer Olympic champion, wears 9. Daniel Rickardson for Sweden wears 10. Early starters, these big names from the sport. Andrew Young for Great Britain has bib number 16. Jean-Marc Gaillard, for him, this is a ridiculously short distance because he just likes it as long as it can be. He wears 20 for France. Devon Kershaw for Canada 25, and so on, and we'll catch up as we go through. So here's number 2. This is Simon Hegstad Kruger, and making his World Cup debut. In fact, he did have a race a couple of seasons ago in Oslo, but only his 3rd World Cup start at the age of 21.
Unlike the women's race, David, a lot of these early starters, you mentioned a lot of the big names as Østensen, Jespersen, Sveen from Norway in the first 20. Now, each one of them have a chance to finish. When we see these lower seeded men, they still have a much greater chance of finishing in the top bracket than earlier this morning when we watched the women. Such is the strength of the men's field.
Going forward, Lukáš Bauer for the Czech Republic. 11 career wins in World Cup, but I have to say that his optimum distance is more like 15 kilometers, whether it's classic or freestyle. But so far this season, he was disappointing in Ruka in Kusamo last weekend, only 36 over 15 kilometers in classic style, so still perhaps coming out of the hard phase of autumn training.
It's interesting, isn't it? He puts, certainly, I've watched him on the glacier now when you're training at 2,700 meters in terms of altitude, and he was some mornings doing 45, 50 kilometers. He puts in a huge base training prior to all these races, so often as he said himself, often we have seen him performing very well at the first World Cup of the season, but that wasn't the case last weekend.
Richard Schad for Switzerland, or Roman Schad I should say, another 21-year-old. And again, this would be his 6th World Cup start. And quite a few of the crowd who've been here now for quite a long time, from the women's race through the Nordic combined. And Maciek Kretschmer for Poland.
Hugely experienced, isn't he? Kretschmer, he's done his 3 Olympics and was that 5 or 6 World Championships, and improving all the time. So, 33-year-old, he's still a way to go.
And as they leave the stadium, it's just about the only flat bit on the course that they have. Marcus Bader in picture there from St. Johann in the Tyrol. 26 years of age, and well, when you look through the record there, yet to make a big mark in his career, representing Austria, of course. Kodan Pearl for Switzerland will be next. Didn't have a good season by any means, Kodan, last year. Really out of sorts, dropped to 144th in the World Cup ranking, but we all know that he's a heck of a lot better than that.
He is, and he's more the long distance athlete. 50 kilometers, 30 kilometers certainly suit him better. And he's one of these brave athletes who in a mass start 50k, he has no fear of taking the early pace. We've seen that many times.
Yeah, hails from Pontresina, just down the road from Samoritz. And here's Giorgio Di Centa. Goodness gracious me, I thought when he'd won that 50 kilometers and the gold medal with the Italian relay team in 2006, that has to be the highest of highs, and I reckoned he was going to retire then. But the appetite is still there 8 years on. He still wants to race. He's 42 years of age, and that's no inhibitor. 5 Olympic Games under his belt, and if he goes to the World Championships, it will be 3, 6, 8, 9th World Championships for Italy.
Amazing career span for Di Centa. I remember one of his fellow countrymen, Murillo Desoldt, here. I came out onto the tracks to watch him at the Olympics, and he was 43 when he was part of that relay winning team at the Olympic Games for Italy.
The tall Daniel Rickardson, who collected the Holmenkollen 50 last season, a notable achievement. And in the purple for Japan, Keshin Yoshida, and a member of the, and I think this is so appropriate, the Cold Weather Combat Training Unit. 27 years of age, from the North Island, Sapporo, Hokkaido. But very appropriate club name.
I suppose if you've got your national servicemen and you're paying them to be athletes, you might as well make them good in a specialist field. And why not make it cold and snowy?
Yeah, 4 years ago, quite interesting, Yoshida, he was 4th in the Under-23 World Championship 30-kilometer pursuit. He was 4th in the 15-kilometer classic race. So close to getting one of those important podiums. But he did, as a junior, get a silver medal in the 10-kilometer freestyle. Now, this is all the way back to 2005 in Rovaniemi. I know that's a long time in the memory. But once you've been on the podium, you never forget that you were there. So you know what it's like, and you know that that's exactly where you want to get back to. Germany and Andreas Katz, mid-20s, yet to set the world alight. But here's another man at under-23 World Championship level, a bronze medal 4 years ago in Hinterzarten in the 30-kilometer pursuit. So there was his stepping stone achievement. And that's why the under-23s were brought in, Mike, you know, to create that step ladder, to keep athletes between junior and senior level interested with another challenge, another target.
I think it's a great thing as Yaparov starts his journey. And you need goalposts along the way. You need motivational, achievable aims along the way as an athlete. And the under-23 is the perfect place. Because some of these teams, Norwegians, it's hard to get into that Norwegian team until you've built an experience base, a racing base, especially the Norwegian men's team.
Sweden, Lars Nelson went to Sochi, top 10 in the skiathlon. Not a bad result by any means. And that was his first taste of the Olympic Games. He's yet to represent his country at World Championship level. Next to start should be Andrew Young for Great Britain from the Huntley Ski Club. Now, I hope we're going to see Andrew just get away. We haven't seen him so far on TV.
Then the camera goes to look at the audience having their lunch. Oh, here we go. Well done.
That is Andrew Young.
That is
not
Andrew
Jespersen. And Andrew Young, he's 22, and Mike's still improving. Definitely
still improving. More a sprinter, I think, although his 6.5 seconds off the top 30 yesterday, he was disappointed with that. And but certainly the future's bright at that young age, and the talent that he has. Hugely talented young athlete.
Chris Jespersen, well, runner-up in the 50-kilometer Tour de Ski race, the long leg, so to speak. And the junior world champion over 30 kilometers freestyle mass start in the junior worlds of 2003. But that is, again, a little distant in the memory. So it's going to take a while, Mike, for this to unfold.
It is. Kruger just skate-toing, or double dancing as the Norwegians call it, compressing through the arms on each skate out with the leg. It's a tough athlete to be able to carry that technique all the way up this climb. Certainly builds the lactic acid and fatigues the muscles.
Czech Republic and Aleš Razím getting underway. Small problem at the moment. The FIS computer system doesn't seem to be working, so we're not getting any times at the moment up the first climb, other than those that you see on the screen. So comparison of performance is a little bit difficult at this particular moment. Kerdan Pearl, Bauer up there at 8:04, as you can see. But it's a real disadvantage to go this early, I guess. You know that all the guys who are in better shape and who've been performing strongly are going to follow you. So really, this is a tough call. What Kerdan will have done is worked out with his coaching team exactly what target he wants to achieve here. And he's going to be looking at that in the context of his season rather than the context of this race.
I think, yes, Curtin is another one. I know he was training in Davos. In Davos, they're promising snow, which they provided, or skiing on snow from the 1st of November. So he was training over there, machine-made snow piled out, so a lot of altitude training, really. So it'll be interesting when it goes back to his home country soon before Christmas. I think we'll see him in much better shape at that point. Rickardson just effortlessly, or it looks effortlessly. It's certainly not when you're climbing this hill. I love this camera shot where you can see them exhaling all that air. They're sucking in about, well, between 200, 250 litres of air a minute. Huge volume of air, so you're sucking all these cold crystals in, and there you can see them exhaling it with a dark background up this hill in the sunshine.
Well, they say they're using GPS tracking, and I'm just wondering whether the GPS tracking is not tracking, because that doesn't seem to be happening. Rickardson, though, a reasonable start for him, but again, you know, this is just really too short a distance, isn't it? And Roland Clara for Italy in the unusual red suits that the Italians have chosen for this season for reasons I cannot think of. And Roland Clara, he's a racer who just appears now and then to find some form.
It's strange. I like the way Østensen, he's taking the, well, he's crossing the track now. He was going to the right side as we're looking down the hill. That's where less people have skied, and by his reckoning it is faster, and that does make sense. Once in these colder temperatures, once it becomes more powdery, it's not quite as fast under the skis. More friction. But he's going slightly longer way around, but clearly he feels that is the faster route to take.
Problem is, if you're a Norwegian, everybody expects here, don't they? There's real pressure. Tim Schank has just started for Germany, and this is Anton Lindblad from Sollefteå. It's one top 10 achievement in some 24 odd starts in the World Cup. That was last season in Novo Mesto in a freestyle sprint, so whether 10 kilometers is a distance he can manage.
Sollefteå for Lindblad's from way up near the Finnish border, way north of Sweden, so well and truly used to cold conditions and lack of daylight.
Interesting that some of the Central European alpine resorts like Val d'Isère have been struggling for snow, and when the alpine races come back to Europe, I think, not quite sure whether it's the men and the women or both, are going to be heading for Åre, who have snow, so that's a bonus boost for the Åre season.
The biathlon side as well, the IBU Cup, the second division, if you like, in racing, they're having to move races as well.
It's interesting, people, you know, in terms of alpine skiing, sometimes they rather forget the Scandinavian countries and what they have to offer, like Kvitfjell here, not far from here down the road, in terms of alpine skiing.
That's some good skiing, and of course Åre, along with Falun, wanting to combine that as an Olympic bid, which they've put in for many, many years. I think they've given up in the end to put in for so many.
Yeah, the financials are really heavy these days, and you can see Bauer now on the second rotation. This is the second time he's been up here. Early pace setter, and this looks a slightly better performance this weekend from Bauer. Just seems to be more together, and 4 seconds outside the best time. Apologies, I can't give you any differentials at the moment because unfortunately our computer system, we're trying to work out whether it's us or just generally, isn't delivering what we'd hoped for. It wasn't the problem at all during the women's race, but for some reason it's fallen apart for the men's at the moment.
There's Jespersen and Andrew Young were just being passed there, so just over 30 seconds behind, but the race leader at the moment. Jespersen going way over to the left again in that less skied segment of the snow. Yazawa. I think this is a growing, a stronger Japanese team coming through, and Miyazawa is just a 23-year-old. 5th at the Junior World Championships in the pursuit race. So a real contender, and looking so strong, composed on his skis.
The big cheer, by the way, was for Eldar Roening, who was preceding Miyazawa. Eldar Roening, of course, in his time, one of the top men, not least the World Championship silver medal that he got over 15 kilometers in classic style in Oslo in front of a Norwegian crowd back in 2011. That's really his sort of distance. And Sveen now, 14 seconds behind Jespersen. And I'm pretty happy to say that the computer has come alive. Somebody's put a shilling in the meter, and we're back in business. Obviously, we were on the wrong side of the moon, which was full last night, I noted. Well, looked full to me anyway. I was mystified, actually. Did you see the Americans? They put up that new test rocket and capsule that came down in the Pacific as a very early first step to, reinstating manned flight to the moon and Mars, and then announced that the visit to Mars is planned for 2033.
Nothing like early planning.
Will we make it?
Let's hope so. Rickardson dancing his way around the left-hander.
Yeah, Roman Fruga of Switzerland has gone up the first 900 meters quicker than anybody else at the moment, 2:10. But Lars Nelson at probably 2.2 kilometers. Yes, it is. He's ahead of Rickardson by a couple of hundredths. 3.3 kilometers, the fastest up there, Chris Jespersen. And through the first 5-kilometer loop, the leader is Rickardson. And now Alexander Legkov. Well, if you're the Olympic champion of 50 kilometers, you don't really have to do anything else. That's it, isn't it? I mean, he was the savior of the Russian performance at Sochi. No pressure from Mr. Putin, but, you kept seeing Mr. Putin's picture lurking around Legkov, and you sort of knew that there was a heck of a lot of pressure. But actually, he's a fantastic racer, Legkov, and he deserved that victory.
He really did. Well, it took 1, 2, 3, didn't they? With Sundby just in behind, just missing out on the medals.
Yeah.
In that particular race, but they did well to put it together, to hold it together throughout the Olympics for the final race, and then take the 3 medals on offer. Doesn't come much better than that.
Yeah, but the whole team was on the edge of a visit to Siberia until that moment.
The train was warming up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the carriages wouldn't have had any heat, though.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I wonder how that is going to form Legkov, how it's going to affect Legkov's year, because he didn't have such a good start last weekend. It wasn't bad, but by his high standards, expected a little more.
But he's only 31, but yet again, Mike, I think, this is one of these sports where you really can't, at some point in your career, expect to be at the top all the time. I mean, you have exceptional athletes like Marit Bjørgen, who is, an outstanding athlete of her generation, and quite a few generations, actually. And those sort of people don't come along that often.
They don't. And Legkov winning the first Russian to win the Tour de Ski, he won a lot of money last year, and I thought that really knocked his chances back. And the earlier races at the Olympics, he didn't quite perform where he wanted to. But anyway, he saved it for the end.
Yeah.
And took the all-important 50.
Mind you, the ruble's lost almost 50% of its value.
Ouch.
Yeah. So very early days, but first 5 kilometers, Chris Andre Jespersen, the fastest there in 11:27.3, and Nelson, here he is on his second loop. Well, I'm sorry we deserted you at an interesting moment there, but Dario Kolonya has just left the start gate, and this is Chernusov of Russia from Novosibirsk, way over towards the east of Russia, not in the European part, more in the Asian part of Russia. And Jovian Hediger for Switzerland, no doubt at 23, one of the athletes who's been watching Dario Kolonya's blossoming career. There is just 5 years between them, but Kolonya was amazing last year. Hopefully we'll see him, because two-time Olympic champion at Sochi over 15 kilometers classic and also the skiathlon, as Gaillard out on the second circuit at the moment.
Certainly a powerful attack here, early attack from Gaillard, but he's got to find some 10 seconds, 10.5. What's that on his hanging around his neck? Has he forgot to take his accreditation off?
But a little bit like it was for the women over 5 kilometers, this is not a distance where you can hang about. You just can't afford to give, 10, 15 seconds away in the first couple of kilometers, because you're already out of it. You're just not going to make that sort of distance back. And here you can see the first man coming into the finish. This is Kruger, well, actually wearing bib number 2. And Kruger, in fact, is the man who finishes first. Jakob Greif, who he overtook, is almost a minute behind him. So Kruger, and here's Lukas Bauer. Now, Lukas Bauer, interesting. I think he's behind on the clock.
Slightly, but certainly he seems to have picked up his game in the last quarter of the 10-kilometer race.
Yeah, but where he is now, and he's still got to drop round and come down into the stadium, that 20 seconds is going to evaporate very, very quickly, and I'm not sure he can overtake Kruger. So that will be a good scout for Kruger into the final race to the line. 7, 6, 5 seconds now. Not going to happen for Bauer.
Close, but certainly not close enough in his mind. He'd like to have taken the early lead. I think he probably thought he would have the early lead at this stage with just 3 ahead of him.
Yeah.
But I think it's better. I think he didn't perform. He admitted that it was a poor performance last weekend in Finland. I think that's looking a lot sharper for the man from the Czech Republic.
Already on their way, the likes of Alexei Poltaranin. Alexei Poltaranin, who you might remember as a world bronze medalist from Val di Fiemme in 2013, but also a World Cup when he's a sort of 15-kilometer specialist as well, a bit like Lukas Bauer. And now Johansson, this is up to 3,300 meters, challenging Jespersen.
Love the smoothness of Johansson skiing. There's no wasted energy in the head, the shoulders. Everything's efficient over his ski, compressing at exactly the right time. Now getting all the energy of his body weight through the ski.
3 seasons out of 4 in the world of cross country are either occupied by World Championships or the Olympic Games, as Johansson goes into second place, but just a whisker behind. And it's really hard for a team to prepare collectively because it's such an individual sport, and the physiology of every one of these races is oh so different. So there is no blueprint in the way that you prepare to peak at the right time. It's just different for everybody.
It is. But I think in the modern day racing, a lot of the teams are beginning to shade each other more closely than they used to. The Russian had a system in the past that was very different to the Germans, that was very different to the Norwegians. Now they're beginning to realize that the speed work and the quality is important.
Kurt Ampel will have a moment in the warm chair. Turnseth, this could be interesting.
Keeping his head looking when he can up the hill. It allows more air to come into your lungs. Lovely angles through the ankle, knee, hip section. That lean forward. I think we're looking at the new lead time coming in now from Rickardson.
Yeah, so Kurdan Pearl vacates the chair, and Rickardson haven't really found our pathfinder, but of course, what do we expect from the likes of Petukov? You see, he would be an out-and-out sprinter. He's going to be the penultimate starter. So, you know, we're not really looking for someone like him to actually win this race today.
No, not at all.
So when you go from the bottom, because you're dealing with that, you know, maybe Ustugov, because he can certainly do this distance. Alex Harvey, who wears bib number 108 and is 10 bibs before Paul Goldberg start, I would think that he has a reasonably good chance of putting in a good performance. So actually it's a little bit wrong to just look at the last starters, because you've really got to look at some of the more proven distance runners. Andrew Musgrave wears 70, by the way, when he starts. He's amongst the seeded group, and he is seeded with bib number 70, so that's an indication of his progress. So I understand why, Mike, you're thinking that maybe it's not impossible for one of these early starters to be right up there and right up there for quite a while.
Well, that's what I was thinking, and just looking at the sun on the track, I mean, it's still a way to go before some of the tail enders start. We're just losing a half a degree temperature, and the crystals become that little bit sharper, the glide is less. And as Cologne makes his way up, wasn't on form last weekend, looking slightly better this weekend. Heikkinen setting the new time at 3.3. Heikkinen's flying. He's taken 6.4 seconds off Jespersen's time. Cologne slotting into 4th. Eldar Roning still at 23 seconds behind, just under 6 kilometers. He's still more a classic specialist, I would say. Hasn't quite got his freestyle skiing to the level that his classic is. Such a close race. We're going to have so many athletes within, well, the first 15 seconds. Go back to you mentioning Andrew Musgrave. The fact that his classic skiing is so much improved this season, he's worked hard to do that because of his really high standard sprinting. Tomorrow it is a time you start the time behind you are today in this 10 kilometer on yesterday's sprint. And it really does improve Andrew's chances as Jespersen takes the early lead away from Rickardson.
Well, Jespersen finishing.
There is Muzzy.
Andrew Musgrave didn't quite get it right yesterday. He made a break, but it wasn't sufficiently strong to maintain, and he got eaten up. He didn't, in a way, judge the course that well, I don't think, in his energy management.
It's a strange one, isn't it? You have a strategy going into any race, and it can so often change. And I think the early slow pace, it unsettled Andrew, and it was a slow pace, and so he then took the lead on. And there's often a lot of luck in these sprint races in terms of your placement, at what time you get yourself into that top 3, or you hold back in the early part. So it is a tactical decision at the right time that wins the race.
So Jespersen, 23 minutes 15.3 in the clubhouse. He's the leader ahead of Daniel Rickardson. Kurdan Pearl drops to 3rd place. Simon Kruger for Norway to 4th and Lucas Bau to 5th. And 27 seconds separating the first 5, so there's quite a spread already.
Jean-Marc Gaillard, it's a good time, and I think that shows his strength and form coming into the season, because he really is the long distance specialist.
Matti Häkkinen, by the way, leading Jespersen at the halfway stage in his race by 8 seconds. And this is a quite muddling order. It's I just question, Mike, whether this is the best race format you could have with such a large number of competitors. It's really difficult for not only us, but for I think a lot of people to actually understand who's leading and where.
Well, I mean, all the big names, the top 30 from the sprint races, yes, mainly at the back, interspersed with lower ranked athletes, but you've got the likes of Northug. He's clearly going to have a good one today, and tomorrow in the Classic he can attack. There's big names you mentioned in the Russian team as well. Legkov, he's a bit off the pace today. Chernusov's out there, and they are going to be good tomorrow in the Classic as well. Hadderstad, though, as an out-and-out sprinter, he'll find this one a little tough. 10 kilometers in the freestyle over this terrain. 540 meters climb from start line to finish line.
Interesting, Matti Häkkinen actually lost time. We'll just take a look at Andy Musgrave, how he is going to work this one out.
I think this will suit him, David. It's a testing course. He likes hard work. He's a real grafter in the race. He's got his technique up to a very, very high standard. And I think he can match a lot of the best athletes here today.
So just going back to Häkkinen at 5,900 meters. He had at 5,000 meters an advantage over Jespersen of 8.3 seconds, and he lost 5 seconds in that climb out of the stadium the second time around. So Häkkinen, and he was 9 seconds ahead of Rickardson at that point. So it was to Jespersen found some pace, or Häkkinen lost pace, whichever way you like to look at it at that particular point.
Well, there's Jontrud Sundby just getting his tracksuit bottoms off, and not a sprinter. He didn't feature in yesterday's sprint races, but he will today and he will tomorrow. But with a disadvantage of at least 30 seconds from the best of the sprinters yesterday. He has to put a lot of work in today to try and pull some of that deficit back.
Interesting to see Colonia 11 seconds behind Häkkinen and 8 behind Jespersen at the 5 kilometer point. Colonia 10 seconds behind, making a little bit of ground as he went out on the second rotation, and that's typical Colonia to start finding and eating into the deficit on the second rotation.
He is the master of pacing. .24 seconds. That's pretty good from Clara.
You just imagine how difficult it is for us to keep a grip on 118 starters. Just imagine how difficult this is for the coaches, because they've really got to pick 3-4 athletes who they reckon are the pathfinders for their respective team members. So not easy.
Not easy. They're trackside there with the computers, and they'll have a good and clear picture of what's happening in the race. De Fabiani.
Häkkinen and Jespersen at 7.2 kilometers. separated by only 2 seconds. So Heikkinen actually grabbing back. Actually, no, just looking at that, Jespersen actually still prospering, still closing the faster of the two. Rickardson at that point 6.2 seconds back. So actually Heikkinen losing time. And a little further on, 8,300 meters. Heikkinen yet to get there.
Good to see Södergren. We saw him there in the warm-up pen, just picking up his skis. Good to see him back. Tadic looking good out of the start gates, the Croatian. And that is a team evolving, developing. Better structure than they've ever had before.
Well, there's Chris Jespersen. Must be pretty pleased with himself because he's taking a few scalps and looks as if he might have a bit longer in the chair.
They've given him the woolly jackets, the hats, everything, because I think they are expecting this could be a fairly long sit.
And proving that there is life after Fischer when it comes to skis. Rossignol, on which Chris Jespersen skis.
Yeah, the highly rated skis. They've got 3 little gimmels or lines down the base of the ski, and they ride really well. They feel good. But is Heikkinen going to spoil the party in the chair?
Well, he's been losing time to Jespersen and Rickardson, who are 1 and 2 in the clubhouse. So this will be a telling story with 1,700 meters to go. Heikkinen working hard.
Oh, he is working hard. He realizes the importance with 1.7 to go. Is it a new lead time? I think it will be, but not by a huge margin. Be a test of the skis. The last part of this course, there's a lot of downhill sections.
5.7. That's a counter-attack by Heikkinen to regain the advantage. But how much has that taken out of his legs, I wonder? Andy Kuhne for Germany. From Oberwiesenthal, and well, didn't have a good day yesterday. He was outside the top 100, so freestyle sprinting is certainly not his cup of tea, and he's yet to break into the top 20 of any World Cup competition. Legjanin at 3,300 meters now, behind Heikkinen at this particular point.
Composed. The Russians, or certainly Legjanin and Legkov, they have a much wider spread of their skis. The Norwegians try to keep them more straight line up the tracks. That's the perfect technique.
Durhag just trying to see who might be about to get into this. Colonia was travelling a little bit faster than Rickardson initially, but has lost that particular position. Legkov not doing too badly at interval 7, which is 8,200 meters, 8,300 meters, I mean, I beg his pardon. He was actually 17 seconds behind Heikkinen.
I'm pleased to say further back down the track at the second checkpoint, Andrew Musgrave, 4th place, 1.8 behind at that point. So a powerful start, a dynamic start from the man from Huntley.
Third place for Johansson. Martin Johansson of Sweden should be reasonably pleased with that, I think.
He knows how good that is, and doing his cause for a place maybe in the relay team at the World Championships back in Falun in February.
Well, that may be a bit of an early call. But here comes Legkov. And powerful polling.
Such a beast of a man, so strong.
And just misses the podium.
Shake of the head there. He maybe thought he'd put enough effort in to be slightly further forward than that.
So Heikkinen now. So you can just see how Heikkinen, he's been leaking time in the second half of the race. And he's leaked the lead, and Jespersen prevails. So the World Cup champion underway. Martin Jonsrud Sundby. Lots more success for him to come, I'm sure, as the seasons unfold. Now, Andrew Musgrave at interval number 3, that's 3.3 kilometres into the race. Second quickest behind Matti Heikkinen, 6.1 seconds behind him, and 300ths quicker than the man who leads the race at the moment, Chris Jespersen. So we know that Jespersen had a very good second half of the race. The question is for Andy Musgrave is can he, as we've discussed so often, manage that energy? And there's Colonia, 10 seconds outside. So there's a real decent chance here for Andy Musgrave if he can keep the whole thing balanced to get a good result out of this.
Well, the man who is the master of pacing had just finished there, Dario Colonia. He started conservatively. He kept his technique under control and then really opened up in the last quarter of the race. And that's a wonderful position from Colonia, 9.8 seconds behind.
Yeah, and at 3,300 metres, the relationship between Musgrave and Colonia, actually Muzzy a couple of seconds quicker than Colonia. So is he as good as Dario Colonia? Well, probably not. Not yet, anyway. And may never be quite as good as Dario Colonia.
Well, Dario is an exceptional athlete, but so is Andrew as well, and I think we're going to see the best. Clearly, Andrew is showing the world again and again how talented he is to be setting such an early good pace, and I think he'll manage to hold most of that pace. But really, he's got another 2-3 years to evolve before he really finds his top form, I think.
So just looking a little further on, interval 4 would be at 5,000 metres. Musgrave has gone through there 9 seconds, so he's lost 3 seconds to Heikkinen, and actually he's lost 2 seconds, 2-3 seconds to Jespersen, who at 5 kilometres is now, or was at that stage, now ahead of Muzzy. Not by much, by 700ths.
Not much at all. And Jespersen had a wonderful, probably the strongest finish so far from this point on, second time around, so 8.3 kilometres. And again, the Norwegian glide factor on their skis plays a part, because there's a lot of downhill in this final section of the race. And he turned around Heikkinen's performance by 8 seconds from this point onwards to the finish line, did Jespersen.
Jespersen, experienced, 31 years of age, but not that many miles on the, on the track, really, when you consider his World Cup starts. I mean, 30-odd World Cup starts. He's had 1 podium. In fact, 2 podiums. He's twice finished second, but who knows? Here comes Musgrave up this first climb for a second time. Now, just having a look at this, this is interval number 5 along the course here.
It's great racing, 5.9 kilometres, still well and truly in contention, 50 metres to the timing wand.
Yeah, nothing nice there, nice tempo, not overstretched. Yeah, just well within himself there.
That's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. From 70 athletes gone through, 3rd place.
Yeah, now he's now 7 seconds behind Heikkinen at this point, and he's 3.3 seconds down on Jespersen. But he's got. Remember, he's got this other tough climb to come.
He has, like what he was doing there, everything seemed to be in control, managing the movement, the energy as efficiently as he could, and showing the world how good he is.
All right, Mr. Northug about to start. Shirota up the hill at 3.3 kilometers. Belov going quite quickly, also at 3.3 kilometers. Belov actually only a second behind Heikkinen, and 4 or 5 seconds quicker than Muzzy. So interesting that's a good start by Yevgeny Belov for Russia. And Belov actually traveling at that particular point 6 seconds quicker than Jespersen. So clearly a man to watch out for. And Peter Northug not mucking about, getting straight into his rhythm here. And you can see those long levers, strong double poling skis. You can tell already that those skis are well prepared.
They're flying, absolutely flying. And he would have made the final yesterday in the sprint racing, but there was a little tussle on the final corner before the finish, so the jury decided that they would penalise him for that, so he didn't actually make it into the top 6.
Now I'm just looking at the starters here from 101 to 118. Eric Bransdal, is he going to be a factor? I don't think so. Baptiste Grove, not sure about him. Emil Iversen, more a sprinter for me. Alex Harvey is the one who stands out to me with Ustigov as the 108 and 110 and the bib numbers they wear. Those are the two. Maybe Finn Crow as well, and Paul Goldberg. There's about 4 here who I'd have to seriously consider.
Yes, Paul Goldberg has got to be feeling good. He can do the short distance, he can do the longer distance, and he's on form.
Shirota, fastest man at 3,300 meters. And he's gone 2 seconds quicker than Heikkinen, 3 better than Belov, 8 better than Musgrave, 8 better than Jespersen, and 10 better than Colonia, who sits in 3rd place in the clubhouse. Just a reminder, at the moment in gold, silver and bronze, Jespersen, Heikkinen in silver, Colonia 3rd, Rickardson off the podium in 4th place. Emil Jonsson. Well, surely 10 kilometers is going to really test him.
He often produces, he's often within 40 seconds off the lead time in these distance races, so he is an out-and-out sprinter, but he can still cut it with the best in the distance racing.
Yeah, but the time drifting away now. He's in Musgrave territory here. Colonia, he's outside, you see.
Muzzy's just gone through the 6th split time at 7.2. He's in 4th place still, just behind Rickardson by 0.02 of a second.
Belov at 5 kilometers lost a little bit of time compared to Heikkinen and is a couple of seconds down on Jespersen's time. So he's lost a little bit of ground there between 3.3. That last 1,700 meters has not been good for Belov.
Downhill, that was mainly a downs on the climbing sections. He's good. Sundby is setting the pace, David. 1.4 to his advantage.
And just looking in the race here, 7,200 meters. Andrew Musgrave 6 seconds down on Heikkinen, and Jespersen, Rickardson ahead of him there. Colonia, just ahead of Colonia at that particular point. Had to go one bit further there, and he hasn't got to the 8.3 kilometers quite yet. Muzzy, we're just keeping an eye on that at the moment to see where he is, because I think that is the telltale sign for him, depending on where he is at 8.3 with 1,700 to go.
He's coming into vision within a minute here. Of course, he's bib number 70. There's 68 in picture, and he's much faster than 68.
So Kalle Halvarsson at 3,300 meters, the fastest man. Here's Belov, and as I said, Belov has been just losing time.
Still some big names starting. You mentioned them earlier. Alex Harvey. This looks powerful. Well, he's setting out with intent, and he has to. He knows the heat of the pace ahead of him.
Still Chris Jespersen sitting in the big, comfortable, furry chair in the clubhouse as the leader, ahead of Matti Häkkinen. Colonius third and Rickardson fourth. Martin Johansson of Sweden in fifth place. Alexander Legkov in sixth. Didrik Turnseth, good result for him, in seventh place at the moment. 1-1-0. Sergei Ustigov, I beg your pardon, about to start. Now, this could be interesting from Ustigov because we know that he's incredibly aggressive.
Hugely talented. They raced him an awful lot last season, I thought, for a young athlete.
6th and 7th in the opening sprints of the season. Much more measured coming out of the start gate.
He is, and he reads the track well. He's a little bit like Northug. He feels pacing. He reads the track where it's slightly faster. He's not frightened to do something different.
1,700 metres to go for Andrew Musgrave, and he's lying in 6th place, 14 seconds off the lead. That actually puts him about 9 seconds slower than Jespersen, the current leader. And at that point, Häkkinen was leading, Jespersen was second. Druhaug of Norway, we haven't taken note of him, but he's up in 3rd place ahead of Daniel Rickardson. Legjanin in 5th, and then Muzzy. And Muzzy actually is 600ths quicker at that point than Dario Colonia.
It's a fantastic day for Muzzy there, in 6th place at the moment. It looks like Rote is setting the early pace now, so it may be he may be knocked down 1 or 2 more, but it's still a brilliant performance.
How much has he got in his legs for what is essentially the downhill run for home?
And depending on how well are his skis prepared, I would imagine very, very well, and comparable with the Norwegians.
Legjanin coming towards the finish now. Now, this is a guide because Legjanin at 8,300 metres was only a second quicker than Muzzy. So here you've got a guide here as he really pushes for the line, coming to the last 50 metres now, and you can see Legjanin now out of the top numbers and goes into 7th place. So Legjanin actually behind Legkov. 114. This is Finn Hågen Krogh for Norway. We thought, I guess, that he was likely to win the sprint yesterday. Now, this is an interesting performance here from Druhaug. Almost got unnoticed throughout the race, but he was within 7 seconds. He was actually within 2 seconds of Jespersen, and that was at 8,300 metres. So have a look at this. And Druhaug coming through, and he's taken the lead away. And I have to say, we didn't really pick him up until 8,300 metres, and he's made an astonishing amount of ground.
That's brilliant, and his finish pace there was wonderful. He knew that he had to pick it up a little bit to try and get to the top of the pile.
27-year-old from Trondheim, Nicholas Druhaug, and 4th in Ruka in the 15-kilometre classic race. That's pretty good. He was 3rd, 1 podium finish, and that was in Falun a couple of seasons ago, over 30 kilometres in a mass start race. But again, another Norwegian lightly raced, only, well, less than 20 World Cup starts, and that's a good performance.
Northug, is he pacing this, David, or is he on his limit? It's a start that's within himself, but a chance to see Musgrave coming into the finish now.
Druhaug at 7,200 metres was actually behind Musgrave, believe it or not. At 7,200 metres, Muzzy had a 3-second break on him.
Turned it around, and Muzzy just coming into the line.
Yeah, and Muzzy 6th place.
Fantastic, his best ever distance race in the World Cup.
That is some finish from Andrew Musgrave, and you know, I know I've been a bit critical over his energy management, but I think that was really well balanced and thought through. And obviously the information he was getting along the track was good as well. and he was responding to it.
He's a much improved athlete this year, David. He has always had the engine, he's always had the mentality, and now the maturity is coming into his racing game, and that's an outstanding performance.
Extra physical strength, he's growing, he's getting stronger. Well, that's the situation, and you can see Andrew Musgrave there, currently in 6th place. Now, I'm just having a little assessment of who's still out on the course and running strongly. And I think, Mike, that there's every shout that he's going to make the top 15, which would be, by some way, his best World Cup race.
In the distance race, he's had a couple of good sprints in sections of the Tour de Ski, but without a doubt in terms of his distance race. And there's only one or two. Sundby will maybe make an impression.
Kalle Halvarsson going really well, Shirota going well, Martin Jonsrud Sundby. We don't know yet about Alex Harvey. We need to wait and see how that progresses. Ustugov, not the quickest of starts. I'm having a look at 2,200 meters. Northug, of course, we have to factor him in. Yeah, there's you know, but 6th place at the moment. I think he's got a real chance of staying in the top 15.
Oh, he definitely has. Shirota is going to probably set the new lead time. Sundby's out there and firing well. And Paul Goldberg is likely to have a good race. Look at this, Shirota.
Yeah, Shirota was 3 seconds behind Sundby at 7,200 meters. And Shirota into the lead, but remember Sundby wears bib number 90, so he's still got to come to this part. Now Shirota's traveling 12 seconds faster than Jespersen, 13 faster than Belov at this particular part of the race. That's at and Halvarsson, Kalle Halvarsson now, Mike, through 7,200 meters at 16:05.1. And you've got Ustugov coming up now, and Ustugov at 3,300 meters. So remember, there are different stages of the race, so it's a sort of quite difficult comparison here.
It's a good start from Ustugov, 3.3 kilometers. It's going to challenge with the best. Not sure it will be the best. 4 seconds to go to the line, the checkpoint.
Yeah, he's going to be around Heikkinen and Belov, isn't he? You know, he's going to be around that, well, maybe a bit more actually.
No, he's
going to be Musgrave Northug time. Yeah, Musgrave, and he's passed Musgrave, Colonia. So 14 points. He started very steadily. Now maybe he's going to wind it up in the second rotation. You have to believe that's possible. Now Belov here. Now Belov was ahead of Musgrave at and 3.1 seconds. He's gone into a decent 4th place finish. 3 seconds behind, just having a look here, behind Druhal. And Belov was actually a second ahead of Belov at 8,300 meters. So a bit of a turnaround there.
It is. Northug, well, remember, Northug started relatively comfortable, but I thought he might be able to pick it up, but no, he was 12 seconds down the last time we looked, dropping further down the field. It's going to be behind Muzzy.
Yeah, we have to keep an eye really on Kalle Halvarsson, because Kalle Halvarsson is eye-catching at the moment, the 25-year-old Swede from Falun. And so far, you know, his splits and times are looking pretty impressive. He wears bib number 2. He's running behind Martin Jonsrud Sundby, so that gives him an advantage as well, that he's getting splits on Sundby. And Kalle Halvarsson, I can't remember Kalle Halvarsson on a World Cup podium. I really can't.
Sundby destroying Rota's time. That's a big improvement. 4 seconds at this stage.
And Rota coming in now, chasing Druhag. Now, he had the better of Druhag by about 14 seconds. That was at 8,300 meters, and takes the lead, but it's beatable. That time is still beatable.
And with Sundby getting the split times, he's got 4 seconds to pick up. It's there's not a lot of hard work terrain left. There's a lot of technical terrain left and curvy, spinny corners. But for me, it looks like Rota is going to take this one.
And by the way, Alex Harvey not really figuring at the moment.
Started strong.
Kalle Halvarsson now 1.1 seconds behind Sundby, so there's the turnaround. Halvarsson was 4 seconds ahead of Sundby at 7,200 meters. In the last 1,100 meters, he has lost the best part of 5 seconds to Martin Jonsrud Sundby. So it's just a question of the run home. Halvarsson is pretty good downhill.
He is, and he's got that
huge... It always
huge...
sticks in my memory, the World Championship relay from Val di Fiemme, and that big sweeping turn and run down for home. And he was good there.
He's a giant of a man. He carries a lot of weight, so clearly the bigger the weight, the faster the glide. But then you do catch that wind, of course, which slows you down.
Halvarsson will have been given the split, so he'll know exactly what he has to try and do. Besmetnik there for Russia. Paul Goldberg at 3,300 meters. We haven't perhaps given him much credit yet, but let's see what he does. Coming up here. He's in a bit of traffic, Paul Goldberg, I have to say. You can see he's caught the man who started 30 seconds ahead of him. That's Besmetnik. And that hasn't helped him. It really hasn't, because he's been stuck amongst those racers.
He has, but look at the margin. He's not going to pull. It's going to be some 15, 17 or more seconds behind, and he's unlikely, Goldberg, 16 seconds, unlikely to pull that time back.
So Sundby, the one other advantage that Halvarsson's got is that he wears bib number 92, which is a minute after Sundby. So the Swedish coaches, they should be able to give him the actual splits of what he's got to do. So he's really going to have to go for this. But Sundby has skied extremely well, a very balanced race. When you look at him, he's always been amongst the first three. He's always been within 3, 4, 5, well, 3, 4 seconds, really. And this is going to take the lead away from Shirota. And at the moment, Norway are 1, 2, 3, 4. They are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just having, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. Martin Jonsrud Sundby leads from Shirota. Second, Niklas Druhaug, personal best, and third place, Chris Jespersen, who led for such a long way, in fourth place. And then Matti Häkkinen for Finland, Yevgeny Belov, and then Colonia. And Tony Livers has come in there unnoticed for Switzerland in 8th place, ahead of Daniel Rickenson. Musgrave in the top 10.
Well, his best ever it was in a stage race in 2013, 17th he was in Oberhof, Muzzy. I think he'll do better than that today.
Oh, not worried about some silly prologue in Oberhof. This is real racing. And this is Andrew Musgrave's day. I just wonder, Kalle Halvarsson is going to push him out of the top 10 inevitably. But, you know, who else is going to take anything away from him? And Halvarsson here, you can see that last 1,700 meters has not gone his way. He goes into third place. He breaks up the Norwegian party. They'll be miffed about that because it was a clean sweep up until he crossed the line.
It was. I think what Sundby did there, David, was amazing. He turned around 8 seconds in the last 1,300 meters. Incredible turn of pace.
He's on the verge of a 5th appearance in a UK Championship final. Here comes the 5-time champion of the world.
The UK Championship semi-finals, or I think it's the semi-finals, I might be wrong. Ronnie O'Sullivan. I was listening to a radio interview of his earlier today, and he said, well, he can't win them all, but I just love being competitive, but I've got a hunch. Might be his turn again here, and that's coming up. Meanwhile, back here, I can tell you that Andrew Musgrave in 11th place is 34.9 seconds only behind the World Cup champion of last season, Martin Jonsrud Sundby of Norway.
And Sundby has that 6.4 second lead.
Got to keep an eye on Northug, because Northug is somebody who actually could push Muzzy down another place. Although, having said that, early on they were travelling at about the same speed. Just looking at Muzzy ahead of Colonia, ahead of just looking very close actually.
Yes,
Muzzy at 7.2
just ahead
kilometers
of
was actually 3 seconds ahead of Northug. Although I'm still to be convinced about Northug's form. I think he's still some way off his best.
Yes, and he will, you would expect Northug to put in a very fast final kilometre and a half, just as Sundby did. I don't know where he found that magic from, Sundby. Something special over the final part of the race, and it is an advantage when you're being given split times of the athlete that's leading or ahead of you.
The interesting thing is that, you know, Northug was ahead of Musgrave at 5 kilometres, but then in the next 2,200 metres, Northug lost time to Musgrave. You know, we're talking about Muzzy mixing it with the big guns here.
Doesn't get better than this. And he's not just mixing it, he's destroyed a lot of them.
Just looking at Drew Haug, who's now down in 4th place. I'm pretty convinced that that is a personal best for him. Just want to check on that. Well, 4th, actually, he's now equal 4th, having been pushed off the podium. He's 4th in the 15-kilometre classic last weekend in Ruka in Finland. So he'd be a bit frustrated about being 4th if that's where he ends up again, and that's the way it's looking at the moment. Just going up to 8,300 metres. Not much change in the order there. Paul Goldberg. Now that's... check on that coming up. And, well, he's definitely a force to be reckoned with, Paul Goldberg here. Got a little way to go, though. There, another 50 metres. And you can see the seconds clicking away here. And the positions. And you drop very quickly. Musgrave, and you can see there Goldberg just 2 seconds ahead of Musgrave, but will he sustain?
Will he sustain? Remember, Goldberg did all 4 rotations of yesterday's 1.5 kilometre sprint race in the freestyle. Northug just picking the pace up in this last section. They still love him, but his pace has dropped off noticeably towards the end.
Yeah, I'm just trying to have a look at Northug just to see what on earth has been happening to him.
Well, he had the desire early on, David. He held the strength as best he could, but he really has faded in the last segment. He's going to be nearly a minute behind.
There'll be 1 or 2 races, actually, after the first 2 weekends of cross-country, are going to be perhaps rethinking their preparatory programmes for the Tour de Ski, or indeed for the World Championships, because 1 or 2 of them, like Peter Northug, despite getting that 2nd place, which I think was brute force and strength in the sprint in Finland, there's something not quite right at the moment.
No, he's had his setbacks this year since May, and hasn't been able at times to fulfill his training plans as best he wanted to. So
self-inflicted.
Absolutely self-inflicted. But I think we'll see the best of Northug for the World Championships.
Bransdal wearing the yellow beard, World Cup leader, and you can see 36-37 seconds, so outside Musgrave's time again, so that's another scalp. I know Eric Bransdal is really an out-and-out sprinter, but this is very interesting at the moment. Just looking at it, Musgrave still holding on to 11th place, just behind Daniel Rickardsson. Tony Livers, I haven't really talked about him, but again, quietly has crept into the top 10. hails from Davos, 31 years of age, and I can remember just one 15-kilometer victory for him. It's way back. It was a joint win. And Bransdal out of the points. Martin looks as if he's doing his housekeeping there.
Well, I think he's expecting to remain in that seat, so he's making sure he's got his warm clothes on.
Yeah, well, he's got a nice little stove next to him as well. You know, just to... Actually, you've got to be careful, actually, because you wrap up warm. You don't want to get over warm, because otherwise the sudden contrast of temperatures can... it's not the healthiest of things. Finn Krogh. Now, just looking at... he was at 5.9, having a good race. He was actually only 7 seconds behind Halvarsen and actually only 5 seconds behind Sundby. So this is a good run by him. Now, where's he going to go with? He's got to be up there. He really does need to be up there. 8,300 meters. That's where he's coming to now. And this is a very good effort by Finn Krogh. Still a few meters to go, but he's not going to be many seconds off the money.
Well,
that is very good indeed. 2.7 seconds.
And remember, Sundby turned around a 4.4 second deficit at that stage.
Yeah, and Finn Krogh's a sprinter. He can sprint at the end of his race there. So he's at that point, Sundby, Halvarsen, Krogh separated by just 3 seconds.
He doesn't quite know which way this is going to go.
Yeah,
2
this
seconds.
is shades of what we saw in the women's race between Theresa Johaug and Marit Bjørgen. Maybe, who knows? Because Finn Krogh, who we thought was going to win the sprint yesterday, turned out to be Paul Goldberg. He finished in 3rd place. And just looking at his distance form, well, he did have a runners-up spot a couple of seasons ago in the 30-kilometer mass start in Falun, so he can do the distance. There's never any question about that. It's just a question of speed and pace, cornering tightly, tight lines. He needs tight lines coming around these turns.
And there's about a 15-second sprint into the finish. Can he take, say, 1 second? He is an out-and-out sprinter as Krogh compared to Sundby, and can he take just 1 second, 1.5 in that home run? He probably can.
Has he ever won a World Cup?
He needs something
No.
in his legs.
Never won a World Cup. He's been runner-up twice, but he's never won one. Paul Goldberg now coming through. The last man to start. And you can see steady there. Now Goldberg, well, he was 16 seconds down. So Finn Krogh actually traveling 9 seconds faster than his Norwegian teammate at this particular moment.
Well, I think Goldberg's going to make it into the top 8 if he keeps this pace going.
He's steady, isn't he? He's steady, but he's not really setting the world alight here. But he's getting an enormous amount of encouragement. And he's just about to meet a little traffic as well, which he could do without.
He is. He's not got the tempo that we saw Sundby show us up here, and many of the other big names, Halvorsen, Jespersen. Keeping it efficient, though, and that's all you have to do. All he is losing time on the lead, marginally.
Musgrave was 25 seconds down at this point.
Oh, so he's got a 5-second advantage. And Goldberg, he is an out-and-out sprinter. As well, he won yesterday.
And just to make the point, Mike, with Andrew Musgrave, we're talking about the best ever British Nordic Ski World Cup result ever, aren't we?
Absolutely destroyed any
We're not just talking about his personal best. We're talking about a PB for any British Nordic skier ever in the history of World Cup.
The best ever cross-country result, without a doubt.
So if he top 15s, that's going to be an important landmark and a platform from which to move forward.
And he showed us last weekend to get 1 minute 16 behind the best, who was 16 ahead of anyone else in in Arouca, over 15 kilometers. He really has landed this season.
This is Finn Krogh. This is exciting. Challenging Sundby. Here we go. Last 100 meters. And he's not going to quite do this. Sundby has the strength. This man's got the speed, but not enough of it. He didn't pick up as much as he needed. But that is second place for Finn Krogh. and it equals his lifetime best. But Sundby over to congratulate. Look at the agony. Look what he's put himself through. Oh, that is real pain.
That's the limit. You can't take much more, and he couldn't really find out anything in his legs. Total and utter pain. Oh. You feel like you're drowning when you're at the end of a race where you can't give that much more.
Well, the World Cup champion, the defending World Cup champion, thinks he's done enough. I think he's probably done enough as well. He was fearful, but again, two Norwegians fighting out. And often you see an athlete just collapse in the snow, face down, no movement. But there you could relate to what he was going through. That was hurting so much.
But he's still not quite with it, but he was going for the line, and you've got to hand it to Krogh. He did do all the sprint races yesterday, so 4 times at maximum pace around the 1.5 kilometer track. It has to take something out of your performances the next day.
So the standings at the finish there, you can see, look at all those Norwegian flags. 4 of them in the top 6, and only Kalle Halvarsen spoiling the party. But that's it, really.
Well, Goldberg is going to probably make it into the top 10 maybe?
Yeah, they're actually being slightly previous here until Paul Goldberg gets home, but he's on his way now. Here he is, and you can see that he's running out of time. Now, question is, from here on in, how much is he going to leak? Because he hasn't got any more to give. 5 seconds. You know, he could be, I'm just having a look at this, Mike. Just looking at this down, you know, Musgrave is 34 seconds.
It's going to be close. 3 seconds, I would say, separating Goldberg.
He's under 20, and he's got 100 meters to go now.
In fact, no, he's leaking a lot of time.
He is leaking a lot of time, but he's here. This is the competitor in him. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 30. He's
just ahead.
Oh,
so that's Muzzy down to 13th place.
Yeah, just looking at that, is it 13th place? But he is, yeah, 34.9 seconds off, but he's top 15, absolutely.
Sundby's delighted. And Andy Musgrave's got to be delighted, and the whole British team, that he has completely and utterly showed the progressions he's making, and he has landed.
So it's a 1-2-3 for Norway and their men. Martin Jonsson Sundby, the defending World Cup champion, gets his first victory of the season ahead of Finn Krogh, who equals his personal best in second place for Norway. Sjur Rota for Norway takes the third place bronze. Kalle Halvarsen spoils the Norwegian party, sort of. In fourth place, he's the best for Sweden. Niklas Druhaug also on the... not quite a personal best there for the Norwegian in fifth place. And Chris Andre Jespersen, the biggest disadvantage of the whole lot, but finishes in sixth place for a big number of 17th. Then Matti Häkkinen for Finland, the best of his country. Yevgeny Belov, the best Russian. Dario Colonia showing something of his form in ninth place, with his Swiss teammate Tony Livers completing the top 10. And here comes that confirmation of the result, and the great news for British Nordic skiing. And I hope you're standing up and giving him a cheer in the Huntly Club. Andrew Musgrave finishing in a best ever British Nordic skiing cross-country performance of 13th.
The prize giving ceremony for the men's 10K skating today. Erik Bramstad var som viste sin gule trøye I dag dette
Well, over to you, Mike. You've got to say the Norwegians are having, both in the men's and women's division, an outstanding start to the season, but just reflect on that race for me.
It's a brilliant race, and it sets tomorrow up beautifully for the classic time trial and how they, pursuit start as they have finished today. And it really is an outstanding 6 Norwegians in the top 7. And Andrew Musgrave just really showing that an outside nation, a nation that doesn't have a history in this sport, can come through, and he really has landed at the top of the field. And They certainly had respected him before. They'll respect him more now.
But Krogh is a mini tour.
Well, so much more to come. Take your breath away. We're very shortly back to Östersund for the women's sprint. Then the ski jumpers in action on the big hill here.
If not difficult, it's extremely tough, the course here. So
then across to North
I'm
America.
happy
Now,
for the win, of course,
I'm
but
really looking forward to getting a word from Martin
even more
Jonsson-Sundby. And yeah, I think that's just being teed up for us now. The winner, who I reckon is chuffed to bits.
Jonsson-Sundby of Norway, great victory today on a very difficult course. I would say the Norwegian team is happy with the podiums today.
Yeah, for sure. If not difficult, it's extremely tough, the course here. So I'm happy for the win, of course, but I think I'm even more happy for my friends at the team. The Norwegian team today was amazing, and we have all three places at the podium, and still we have a lot of guys close behind. So I'm really happy for them. We have trained hard for so many months now, and to be able to have so many amongst the top 10 is amazing. And for me, as a kind of a captain for this team, it's I get a bit touched when the guys are so good.
Well, with your victory today, you take over the overall World Cup lead, and your teammate Finn Hagen Krogh is the mini tour leader. So you'll have a nice team battle tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully we get an exciting race tomorrow. I think both the race and the weather could be quite exciting. So we look forward to a new exciting race and hope to do good for sure.
All right, well, good luck tomorrow and congrats today.
Thank you very much.
Well, of course, because this is part of the Lillehammer Tremble, the points are actually in World Cup terms halved. But don't get disillusioned or disappointed. Andrew Musgrave has actually top 15 in a individual race here, and everybody's starting on absolutely equal terms. Biathlon is next. Patrick Winterton will be with you for the women's sprint from Östersund momentarily.